F for fluid. So it's CSF, Cerebral Spinal Fluid. And it is related, according to some people who are doing research in this area, it is related to Samadhi. In India, we have this thing about the yogis, they go into meditation and they get Samadhi. Samadhi is the highest experience one can have. And we spend all our life learning yoga, you're learning meditation, and somehow there's something happens during that process, and these yogis can do it. They get samadhi. Enlightenment is what the Buddha called it. We think it's the same thing, samadhi, enlightenment, the same thing. But nobody really knows what happens inside the body. Is it in the body? Is it in the brain? Is it in the blood? Is it in the blood vessels? Is it in the bone? So this guy who's done, we'll be interviewing him a little while. He thinks it is related to this thing called CSF. So there are a couple of things I would like to mention. I'm going to show you a little video. Let me just make sure original sound is on. Okay, our whole work is related to sound healing. So if you can sit or whatever position you are in a relaxed mode, just relax and we'll play these bowls. So here's a picture of the bowls. So I'll turn it off from there so I can adjust uh, my computer. And let's close your eyes and feel these sounds coming through your body. Feel it going through your brain, through the spinal cord, and coming back again, because that's what we are going to be talking about. How that fluid goes from the brain, it goes down, comes up again, and it brings energy to the brain and the spinal cord and cleans it up. So if you just want to take a deep breath, we'll do 5 minutes of this, and then we'll come back and talk a little more about it, and then we'll do the final 10-20 minutes of the sound bath. So take a deep breath, very slow, and feel these vibrations going through the brain and through the spinal cord, and feel the relaxation. In a short while, I will start the flute. The flute, the Indian flute, and the Native American flute, they are the oldest instruments known, along with the drum, and the bowls came much later. slowly, deep inhalation, deep, slow exhalation, and feel the vibration going to the brain, to the spinal cord, and coming up and down. That is the Samadhi or the enlightenment process. Okay, if you want to get together, once again, we'll talk about it and I'll give you a short presentation on this guy who's done this research. So let me share screen. Before we share the screen, I wanted to talk about some things. I will show you three videos, three just pictures, one of the brain, another of a thing called the cadeos. Some of us who have been around long enough, who are old like me, if you remember, there used to be pharmacies that would only sell medicines, and sometimes outside there would be like a stick and two snakes going around it. That's called the cadeos. It originated in India with Shiva, the Shiva Lingam, and he would put a snake around him. That is the origin of it. Then it went to Greece, and the Greece, they developed medicine and they used that. And doctors are supposed to take this oath called the Hippocratic Oath. Every doctor has done this, which says, I promise to make sure I take care of my patients. That is the first thing. Not making money or anything else, looking after my patients. And it is around this stick and the two snakes going around it. And those two snakes actually come from Indian philosophy. One is the Ida on the left side, the other is the Pingala on the right side. So Ida and the Pingala, female and male energy. We all have that female energy and male energy. It goes around starting from the lowest, from the Muladhara chakra. And every time they intersect, that's a new chakra. So there's seven chakras. When it comes up here, and this guy will talk about it, there's a pituitary gland here and a pineal gland here. These are energy centers. And the central thing is the Sushumna. And as the energy arises from these two snake type energies and the fluid comes to the brain, that is when we get this very happy feeling called Samadhi. And the whole body is just like in a different world and very peaceful experience. So let me share screen. We can look at that video once. second, share screen. These are the two snakes, and some doctors have this in their office. This is the brain showing a thing called, and this is the CSF going from the brain down to the bottom of the spine.
Just anatomically, um, we have a third ventricle, which is essentially like if you go mid-ear length, straight line, and then midline, right in between your brow, there's a fluid-filled space. It's in the midline. It's called the third ventricle. Just in front of the third ventricle is the pituitary gland. Just in back of the third ventricle is the pineal gland. Okay, both those glands are contacting the third ventricle. This third ventricle then opens up. It goes up into the lateral ventricles, which are on either side of the brain, and it goes down all the way the central canal of your spinal cord. Okay, in Kundalini yoga practices and traditions, they describe a hollow canal in the center of the spinal cord where the Kundalini rises and essentially brings the awakening of the Kundalini, or this primal energy, to the third chakra, where then it goes up to the crown chakra and an awakening occurs. The caduceus, for instance, is the midline. So the staff of the caduceus is sort of like a midline. And the two sides of the caduceus are depictions of two of the channels from this yogic practice, which would be the Pingala on one side, the right side, Ida on the other side, the left side, and they cross. And at each crossing with the Sushumna, they make a chakra. The meeting of the heads, which are the heads of the serpent, come together at the midline, and they come right at the third eye. In my belief, the heads of the snake represent one head of the snake represents the pineal gland, the other head of the snake represents the pituitary gland, and the center is the Sushumna, which is the cerebral spinal fluid. When they come and meet together, it's sort of this meeting of the three energies right in the center here. The third eye, sort of the eye of the soul. This place has been called the Crystal Palace. It's been called the Cave of Brahma. And so from that space, then, it is my belief that, and some other people's belief as well, that there may be a physical manifestation of the sensation of I am, our beingness, at that space when these energies come and combine, that we have this sort of sensation of beingness. And the reason I say that is because the I am is a fluid. The I am can transmit, or excuse me, the cerebrospinal fluid is a fluid. The fluid is known to transmit light. It can transmit vibration. It can transmit flow, so flow from the fluid, and it can even translate molecules. So if there's sort of an experience of a unified experience that you're having, the cerebrospinal fluid, bathing all the areas of the brain that it bathes, has no synapses that it actually has to go through. If a certain message, let's say, is dispersed throughout the fluid, it can go to all the major control centers of the brain. It can be done totally non-synaptically, and it can have this whole synchronized effect on the brain because it's bathing the entire central nervous system.
Okay, that was his explanation of what happens with Samadhi. Now, nobody knows 100% whether he is right or wrong, but he is the best research information we have got. Nobody has provided better information on what happens in the body during Samadhi, or what the Buddhists called enlightenment. It appears like this is really what happens. But how you make it happen is through your own process. Nobody can make it happen for you. Each of us have to make it happen. We do it through our prayer, through our meditation, through our breathing, and at some point it happens, and it is a very delightful, very nice experience. Sometimes during meditation you may experience it, and it is called access. Just a little while, momentary samadhi. Most of us have gone through it. If we meditate long enough, we'll feel that it's a very, very joyful experience. So that's what the research I could find on it, and there are medical advantages to it too. That's why the Greeks picked it up from the Indians, and they have this thing called the cadeos, which is that stick with the two snakes going around, those two energies that are in the body. So the doctors in the olden times, when they would prescribe medicine, they would give something that could balance the spinal cord, the brain, and our male and female energies, so we are in perfect balance and perfect peace. So that's the theory. So we got some time now. Let's spend that time on sound healing. And where does sound healing come into this whole thing called samadhi? We have the brain here. It is completely covered with this fluid. It goes down through the spinal cord, and in the spinal cord there is a small, like a hole. It's not a solid thing, and this fluid goes through the brain, goes through the sides of the spinal cord, goes through the center of the spinal cord, and comes up back here. So it's totally constantly cleaning up the brain. And those people who have Alzheimer's or dementia, it is because the fluid is not perfectly cleaning it up, and then it sticks here and causes the brain to be foggy. So breathing exercises helps that. All exercise helps it, but breathing in particular helps to keep the brain clean, so you're not likely to get dementia or Alzheimer's and these type of diseases. Now, where does vibration come in? And where does sound come in? In the sides of the spinal cord and around the brain too, there are little like hairs that are constantly vibrating and moving the CSF through the fluid, through the spinal cord and back up again. It's constantly causing this movement, and there are waves going through that. So if those things don't work very well, that's where the sound comes in. The sound causes vibration and causes that to move, so that as it moves, it cleans up the brain, cleans up the spinal cord, and gets rid of this fluid. So we have about this much, 50 millicentimeters, cubic centimeters of this fluid. Three times that whole thing gets completely recycled, and it goes out of the body to perspiration and other ways that we get rid of stuff. So at least 2 to 3 times a day, this whole thing gets cleaned up. And if we are not healthy, it doesn't get cleaned up, it stays there. So that's the purpose of these vibrations. You can do it with exercise, you can do it with meditation, or with the help of sound vibrations that move this CSF fluid through the brain and through the spinal cord. So let's do a little sound bath. Sit in any position you are. Take a deep breath and do your meditation. Think of these vibrations going through your body. Think of them causing the movement so that it cleans up all the stuff, amyloids in the brain, cleans up everything, nothing gets stuck there, and it cleanses this whole system and gets rid of it, so we get a new set of CSF fluid in our body. Okay? So once again, let's look at these bowls here. I'll also do the flute in between and the drum. So take a deep breath, deep, slow breath. Feel these vibrations going through the brain and cleaning up the brain and moving through the spinal cord, the CSF fluid moving there and washing your brain and clearing it up so that there's no plaque sticking there to cause dementia or any other problems. Continue taking deep breaths and feel the vibration moving this CSF fluid through the brain and washing your brain on the inside and the spinal cord on the inside. Continue to take deep, slow inhalations and exhalations. And once again, feel these vibrations going through this fluid in the brain and in the spinal cord and cleaning it all up. The brain has different brainwave states and different brainwave vibrations. There's a whole range of them. So that's where this sound healing comes, because it generates a whole range of different vibration frequencies with the drum, the flute, the gongs, metal gongs, the glass crystal gongs. Each of them have different vibration speeds. So those all help different parts of the brain to stay active and vibrant. focus on these vibrations going to the brain, going to the spinal cord, and moving this fluid up and down and cleaning up your whole internal cerebrofibril system. Okay, if you want to slowly get back into your normal breathing process and focus less on the sound, these vibrations are going through your body. I'm not sure anyone got enlightenment in this one process, but that's what really is supposed to be happening when a person gets enlightenment or achieves samadhi. Those frequencies go through the from the lowest chakra, the Muladhara, up to the Manipura, and then the heart chakra, which is the Anahata, and then comes here, and then just the fluid, unlike if you touch something, only some part of the brain gets affected. If you see something, only some part of the brain gets affected. But if it goes through this fluid, the whole brain is bathed in it. So the whole brain gets that message and it sends it to the whole body. So the whole body feels this sense of elation or happiness. So this is part one. There's a lot of material here. I'll do part two and maybe a part three also. There are three parts. I would like to do it little at a time over the next 2 or 3 months. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. And if someone wants to
Yes,
express any
thank you.
views, any questions, okay. Thank you very much for attending and hope someday all of us will get Samadhi. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hello,